Coach, wide receiver was where you guys lost a lot of talent, lost just catching ability. How open is that position right now?
Well, we'd like to think that there's competition, everywhere, and we want to try to keep it very competitive. But that's a spot where we're definitely looking for guys to step up and contribute in a major way. So, every day's competition around here, regardless of position.
James said that he was looking for Keandre to step up as like a number one guy. How exactly do you get a receiver to that point?
Well, I think for the most part, you give them all the information that you can, and coach them, no different than anybody else. I mean, you can't say, well, this guy I'm gonna try to coach a little bit harder and that sort of thing. It's got to come from within, and he's shown all the signs in the off season of wanting to take that next step, as have all the guys in that room. So, we're proud of the way he's been coming along, and the desire that he has and the want-to that he has is exceptional. So if he just stays the course and continues to do the little things that it takes to be great, all the things that are outside of practice, all the film study and all the playbook study and taking notes and eating right and making sure you get to sleep and still training hard in the weight room. All of those things all add up at the end of the day. And so he's taken a business approach. I'm excited about him and what he brings to our offense, and really looking forward to seeing him progress throughout the rest of spring and then into fall camp and then next year.
Mike, James had mentioned before spring practice about developing leadership in that QB room. Mm-hmm. How important is that just because of the nature of the position, and how are those kids coming along because they are all very young?
Everybody needs to see confidence in the quarterback, and the confidence grows and it's contagious. So that's really important. Leading by example is very important, and I think all of the quarterbacks, especially Drew and Bo, have done a really good job of leading by example, and you see signs of them being more vocal at the same time, and that'll come with more trust and more production. The more they produce, I think the more you'll see them become even more vocal, which is needed at times. But for right now, they're just trying to do their job and do it to the best of their ability and really lead by example, and that's all they need to do. But the vocal leader and when the lights are on, I think both of those guys, it comes really natural to them. They want that, and it's great to have that. And I think that's what we saw when we were recruiting them. It's not just about arm talent and the ability to see the field and be a very productive high school player. It's also getting around their coaches and asking questions and being able to evaluate that part of it as well, which is really, really important. So they're great in the classroom with their academics, which is really important, and that's leadership as well. So they're on schedule and really pleased with their development thus far in that regard.
James mentioned on last Tuesday finding a third running back behind Nick and Katron is kind of focus for you guys. What do you see a third running back doing in this offense? What's the role there?
Well, I don't want to limit anyone or anything or scholarship player or walk on at that position. Building depth at every position is really, really important. And you just never know. In this day and age, and things happen in football, it's a very physical game, and especially in this conference in the Big Ten, the physicality is unmatched. And so you're just trying to create depth, whether it's your third tailback, fourth tailback, you're just trying to create the most competitive room. And so, there's no limits, there's no labels, it's just what it is. We've got to continue to get better at every position.
James mentioned last week that we could see by the end of spring practice, Bo and Drew have similar rep counts. He said that's because they have very different skill sets. We saw a little bit of Drew last year. What do you think sets Bo apart in that regard?
Well, Bo is, I think we're still really evaluating both guys, and I think Bo is a very consistent player. I think he's accurate. He's got tremendous feet. He's very strong in the weight room. So I think he brings a lot of ability as far as, I don't want to label as a dual threat because he throws it very well, and I think sometimes when you label guys as dual threat, you minimize their ability to throw the forward pass, and that's not the case. So, I right now we're trying to build the base offense, and then as you get more into it, I think you can get a little bit more specific in your play design and cater to each quarterback's strengths. Maybe it's throwing on the run, pocket movement. Maybe the empty formation can give you something from just a spread standpoint and try to create running lanes as far as quarterback draws and different types of quarterback runs in there. But, we're trying to establish a base offense, which is they have to try to do everything right now that we're asking them to do to make ourselves an offense that's very hard to defend. At the end of the day, we've got to make sure that we're playing to our strengths from a personnel standpoint. Part of that is quarterback and what their traits are and their strong traits and playing to that, but I think that comes later down the road when you start game planning and you start getting specific on their skill sets.
Mike, in terms of the playing time that Drew got last year, are you already seeing that pay dividends now in terms of his preparation on a daily basis, or is that something that will pay more dividends when you get into the fall and the bright lights come on?
I think both quarterbacks right now, and not to say that Jackson's not, he's still learning, but I think all those guys got a really good tutorial watching Cliff prepare. So, their preparation to me has never been in question because they've been aces from day one as far as how they study the game, the amount of work that they put in, and the amount of preparation. Your question regarding his experience, has that helped? And I think there's really no replacing experience. I think that's really, really important, being able to play in, the season opener, when called upon. I think that's really important, and that'll, how do you measure that? I don't really know. I don't have a measuring stick that can measure that, but surely that experience and those snaps have benefited him in his overall learning curve being a quarterback at this level.
Can you talk?
Some of the guys from those kind of profiles, obviously Drew is in one category, you've got guys in the other one. How have you seen arm strength develop over time as a quarterback?
It's really interesting. Arm strength is really not in the arm. Arm strength is really in your transfer of weight and how you transition energy and then how you stop that energy. And then there's a sequencing that's involved to get it all timed up. And if one of those things is off, then you can not maximize your efficiency and your power. But each quarterback's a little bit different, and each sequencing may be different based on how they are from a body and structure standpoint. So just drill work and trying to understand them and listening to outside sources and being able to, play in their natural throwing motion as much as you possibly can, not tweaking too much and not getting involved in that. And I just try to make sure that from a standpoint of the ball's out on time, that they have a good posture and that they have a good platform that they're throwing off of, and then try to incorporate as many awkward throws in your drill work as you possibly can. The arm strength, quote unquote arm strength, is really not in the shoulder and arm. It's really in the transition.
Like along those lines, everybody sees the arm strength from Drew. You see him throwing these missiles out on the field. But what else makes him a good quarterback? You can't just have, I guess, a cannon arm. There has to be other things that kind of go into it.
We're through practice 4, and I don't want to, again, put any labels on anybody. I think he has really good vision. I think he understands the game. He works really hard at it. He's a tremendous worker. And when you work really hard, like the whole quarterback room does, good things happen. And I think he's a product of really good high school coaching. I think the whole quarterback room we've been very lucky grabbing 3 kids that are 3 young men, I should say, out of really good high school programs, and that makes a big difference as well.
Coach, what have you seen from? Sorry, going back to leadership, we lost Juice as well as Sean. How are you trying to replace Juice as a leader on the offense?
Well, when you talk about replacing, it's hard to replace certain guys. We don't necessarily look at it as replacing guys. It's an opportunity for certain guys to step up, and I think there's a lot of guys in that room that understand the need and the importance of leadership, and we like where it's headed.
Coach, what have you seen from Jackson so far?
he's a very poised young man. He doesn't get real high, he doesn't get low, and that's a really good mentality to have as a quarterback because there's a lot of emotions, and I've seen guys that can ride the emotions, whether it's too high or whether it's too low, and it can bring them up or down and really magnify the current situation. So he's able to process information very well. He's still trying to get a grasp on the offense, and I think he's better when he hits the field. And when he was executing in practice 1 through 3, haven't looked at day 4 yet, but 1 through 3, you could see that he's a guy that when he's on the field, he sees it and he gets it and he has really good vision. That's a really important trait to have as a quarterback. So being on the blackboard and being able to spit out information the way we spit it out as coaches will come with time. He's still learning that, and that'll be a transition for him. But I'm very pleased with how he gets on the field and is ready to go and can see the defense and use his eyes very well.
How's McLean fit in at wide receiver, bringing in a transfer?
I think Malik is a unique guy, and he brings really good size. He's got good enough speed. He's a guy that, from an attitude standpoint, you can see that he likes to compete. So I think just overall, if you had to sum it up, he's a very competitive guy that's going to raise the elevation and the competitiveness in that room.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
thanks, Mike.
Thank you.